Good morning, guys. It is 10:46 a.m. on Thursday, the 187th day I'm doing this. Here is your daily dose of hope. I was making a video on Monday, and then literally the sirens went off. So it was kind of funny because I was like, I'm not going to be scared. And then I was like, gotta go. Anyway, I want to say that I've had another Eureka moment as far as figuring out my evening routine. So I am continuing with my streaks. And when I say it's against all odds, I mean it. Just believe me on that, both internal and external. But it is what is absolutely not only saving me, but making me feel like I'm still here every day, at least part of the day. So that being said, I created the last page of my notebook, which this notebook's almost full, which blows my mind, but it's true. I've created like a streaks page the last day of the notebook. So today is the 34th day of journaling, I believe. Yep. And like I have an after dinner routine now for me and my daughter. I have a morning routine. I have the TV goes off at 9, like certain things. But the thing I was still absolutely struggling with was my own bedtime. Not because I can't possibly do it, but one thing I know from experience is when you get your system on board, that's when things flow downhill. Like they flow easily and like you like it, right? Which is what we ultimately want to do. It's like making a meal that's good for you that you don't like the taste of it, but you force yourself to eat it versus a meal that's good for you that you like the taste, right? You set yourself up for success. So I had a breakthrough this morning because I was like, okay, I was really trying to not have any judgment, which is not easy to do. I was trying to have any judgment and be like, what don't I like? Like, what's the problem? Or like, what am I currently doing naturally? And I was turning off that TV by 9. That was pretty much fine because I don't even let myself watch like a news show or anything. It's more just a comfort show for a bit in the background. But what was happening was then I was like, okay, now it's bedtime. Now you're going to get ready for bed. And what I didn't realize is I was going from not like extreme stimulation, but like a favored thing to like a drop off. And that might work for a neurotypical brain. You know, that might work for someone else. It does not work for me. So when I realized that, I was like, so what are you doing? And I'm finishing up stuff downstairs. Like I've got like a thing I do now, like a checklist of make sure the blinds are closed, make sure these things. And it wasn't that I wasn't doing them before. It was that I wasn't sure if I was doing them. So it remained an open loop and it doesn't need to be, right? So it's like, okay, set yourself up for success. And then I was going upstairs and I was basically parking on my bed for a bit, turning on a podcast, like, okay, what's next? Okay, I got to brush my teeth. Okay, you know. But there were these like, I always think of like a factory or something. There were these like disruptions in the system. And then I would brush and I would floss and I'd moisturize. I'm like, now get in bed. And then I'd watch the rest of the podcast, right? A lot of times I'd have earbuds in my ear and then I'd falling asleep with the earbuds in my ear. You know, it's not that I can't possibly make it through the next day, but I'm all about optimizing the things I can control. So I'm really excited because I decided, again, timers, and I think when you don't experience time in a linear way, using like external frames opens up your world. It really does. I know we think that it's going to constrict us, but it doesn't. What it does is give us the ability to choose how we want to spend our time, as opposed to getting pulled into things and then, you know, basically being like, oh, I doom scrolled for however many hours, or I disassociated for how many hours, or I stressed for how many hours. I didn't even realize it. And then we say, well, tomorrow I'll do better. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I prefer to be more aware of what I'm doing so I can make changes and optimize. And then hopefully help other people, right? Like that's my whole thing, is like be the change, be the inspiration. So anyway, the bottom line is what I'm going to do from now on is, starting tonight, is that TV's going to turn off at 9. That is going to be the cue to turn on the podcast. Listen to the podcast while I finish the stuff that I do at night, but have a checklist so I don't get distracted from what I'm doing. Use the podcast to support me. Go upstairs, still playing the podcast. Brush my teeth, floss, moisturize. Finish the podcast. And then the next cue after the podcast, or 9:30 is the goal, which I think that's a decent amount of time for a podcast. Then the final thing is to plug in the phone, turn on a meditation, and lay down. So I was close, but I was not giving myself. It's really hard because you'll hear advice for a different brain. And it's like if you're a night owl naturally, and you're being forced to be in a role that doesn't align with how you naturally are. It's not that you can't possibly do it, but you also can't keep denying that it's taking more effort and energy than it should, right? And it's one thing if you absolutely have to. For example, my daughter's alarm goes off at 5:30 in the morning. Is that something I naturally want to do? No. But I can't control that right now. You know what I mean? But that's my point, is if I am not only in bed, but on my way to sleep earlier, but in a way that I've gotten that intellectual stimulation need before bed met, that gives me a better chance of my system being like, okay, yeah, I'll go to bed because I got to listen to the podcast. So I'm finding how to slot these things, make these little tweaks that are making it so I'm excited about bedtime. And I already was making progress because I didn't have the earbuds in. I wasn't, but I still was staring at the podcast, right? And it's not that I even went to bed that much later after that. But I know on some level that's disrupting, that's like, it's still gearing up my mind right before I'm supposed to be sleeping. So anyway, the bottom line is I'm going to use the podcast as the bridge. And the reason I'm sharing this is, first of all, I'm just sharing my journey. And also, if this helps spark something in you of, this is something that's a consistent problem, what can I do about it? And I would say, particularly if your brain does not flow with typical whatever, give yourself that permission and that freedom and that respect of saying, this doesn't work for me. What can I do to possibly make it work a bit better for me so that I naturally want to do it? I naturally want to do something that I know is good for me that I need to do. So anyway, I have a webinar in 5 minutes. But remember, you are the sky. You were here yesterday. You're here today. You will be here tomorrow. And you deserve to be here every single day. I love you and have a great day.